Hey there friends, it's Cassie and welcome back for another video here on my YouTube channel. Today we have a blog hop and it is a collaboration between Pearblossom Press and Catherine Pooler. We'll talk about it a little bit more later, but let's talk about the products we're using. So this is a brand new stamp set called Bright Days. This is by Catherine Pooler and it is so stinking cute. And I also have the matching dies to go with it. Just love this set. We're also going to be using some easy lights, and if you are new to these, be prepared because these are super, super easy. I also have this I Love You Soy paper. This is by Catherine Pooler. I just wanted to pull in a couple of these patterns. And then I have a couple of Catherine Pooler's inks that we're going to be doing some blending with. So let's jump right into it. I have a piece of cardstock that I have trimmed down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I'm going to tack it down to my glass mat just using a little bit of Heffy tape. It's a little bit like Post-it tape, and it's nice and thick, so I'm going to cut it in half and use the straight edge, or tear it, I guess, and then use the straight edge and line that up on my glass mat. The bottom I'm not that concerned about because it's going to get covered, but the top and the sides, I'm going in about a 1/2 inch on each side. Just want to make sure that's fairly uniform on all 3 of those edges. And then once that is tacked down, we're going to start doing a little bit of blending. When I did do my blending, I started off using one of my blender buddies, and I absolutely love my blender buddies. They're probably better for smaller surfaces or area, I guess, surface area. So as I was going, I decided, you know what, let's pull in a bigger brush. So this is an ergonomic, so it's good for your arms, your hand, whatever. I do find that it works pretty well. And it covers the area very, very quickly. That first color that I used was some Chiffon. And I want to make sure that all of it is covered with that color. And then I'm going to bring in a darker color. This is Sauna. And I'm just bringing it into the edges. And it doesn't look like a super great blend at first. But that's what's cool about this brush, is that the more you blend with it, it just kind of blends everything out. So I'll go all around all 4 of those edges. And then when I'm happy with how dark it is on the edges, I'm going to bring in that Chiffon one more time. Clean off my brush just a little bit because that is a darker ink, and then just do a little bit more blending in the center, and then now I'm happy. We'll peel that Heffy paper away, or Heffy tape, and voila, very, very cool, right? All right, so now I want to stamp out what I'm going to use. So I have some Express It cardstock, and I'm using a Copic friendly ink. And I'm just going to stamp that down onto that paper. I've got the light switch, and at this point I wasn't sure if I wanted 2 or 3 of the cords or lights. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp out 3 while I have everything out. And then I'm going to go ahead and stamp my lights. This is a heavyweight vellum, so it's a little bit heavier than your typical vellum. I'm just stamping using that same ink right on the top of this, giving plenty of space around all 3 of those lights. And then I am going to cover it with some clear embossing powder. Because this is vellum, that ink will not soak into the paper, otherwise it'll just kind of sit there. And this will help it so that it doesn't smear. And then I'll heat set that fairly quickly because it is vellum. It will heat set quickly. You don't want to stick it on there for too long. Keep that heat tool moving. I have this flipped over, so I'm coloring on the back with my Copics, which is so cool. That alcohol ink will just set on there and dry, and it'll be nice. And then just doing it on the back makes it so that it's nice and subtle. Now we'll quickly color all the images that we just stamped out. I'm using a W1 in this instance, and then I'll bring in a W4 and a W6 for the ends of our wires. I don't remember what those parts are called. And you know what's funny is my brother was an electrician. You'd think I'd remember. Anyway, so then I'll pull in the matching dies, tack all those down, and run that through my die cutting machine so that I have all those pieces nice and cut out. And then we can kind of start seeing where we want to die cut on our paper the actual lights. So just lining all that up, then I can tack these down and run this through my die cutting machine, and I'll do that 3 separate times, just wanting to make sure that it isn't too close to each other. And then I can cut out my lights, and I'll want to cut around those but leave enough space that I can use some glue. So now I'll put down a little bit of glue on that back side, and then tack down my vellum light from behind. Isn't that cool? Very neat. And then I'll do that for the other three, or the other two as well. Just using a little bit more of that liquid glue. Tack it down. And then we'll do the other one. And the reason I'm flipping it over is because it's just that much easier to see it through the hole. Okay, now we can adhere our cords, which is so fun. I love that there are, you know, two separate ones that you could choose from, but I liked these ones that were all wound up. And bonus, I have another card at the end I'll show you. Not how to make it necessarily, but I'll show you that I did make it and it's fun. All right, now we'll trim off that excess, and then we're going to put down our floor. We won't put our light switch yet because we want to wait for that for just a second, but we'll put down our flooring, and then we'll get ready to stamp our sentiment onto some black cardstock. So I'll use a magic powder bag. I'll pull out an embossing ink along with some white embossing powder. I'll stamp down my sentiment, cover that with that white embossing powder, and then heat set that till that is smooth and melted. Now, as I said, this is a part of a blog hop, so you are going to want to go down to my description box, just hit that down arrow, and then you can click on my blog and it'll take you through because there are prizes available, so you're definitely going to want to hop around. All right, I'll tack down my sentiment now using a little bit of liquid glue after I trimmed it down, and then we'll get our card base ready. Our card base was 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches, scored at 4 1/4, and then we're going to do all of our stamping on the inside now before we tack anything to the front. So I'll pull out the stamps that I want to use. I love that sentiment on the front that says, "You keep coming to mind." And then the inside is going to say, "Thank you for brightening my day." I love that. So I'll stamp that on the inside. We're also going to stamp another one of the cords in there. And you'll notice I saved all those die cut yellow pieces. We're going to use one of those. I figure, why not, right? So we will stamp our light bulb right onto that piece that was die cut out. And then we can glue that down to the inside. So brings in some of that outside to the inside. And then I will use just one Copic, the W4, to color my cord. On this paper, you don't want to go too crazy because it will show through on the back. So, all right, here are those easy lights. If you know how to use them, you know the deal. They're super easy. If not, you're just going to break these apart. It kind of seems like, oh no, you're going to break something, but nope, they are meant to do that. You'll take one of the batteries, and there is a plus sign on it. Just line that up and stick that inside of your battery compartment. And once you've done that, you have light. That's how easy it is. Oh my goodness. So easy. Hence the name, Easy Light. All right, next part, you're going to want to figure out where you want each of those lights. I want each one inside one of those light bulbs. So I'm just going to kind of place that down, and all of your washi tape hoarding will come in handy here. You're going to just, at least this is what I do. I tack it down with washi tape, whatever I have handy. And for this case, I just want to make sure that I'm not having any of that washi tape overlap the vellum that would show through. So I'm trying to be careful about that, using a couple pieces and tacking down each one of my lights so that way they are sticking through. Vellum is a fun way to do this, for sure. And then once you got that down, you can just kind of start winding things up and tacking down with washi tape all the rest of it. And check it out. It works and it's awesome. Okay, so next part is figure out where you want your actual mechanism to be. I like to have mine right at the edge so that the battery is accessible, so that if the recipient likes to play with it, because I usually give it to my nieces or nephews, that way if the battery wears out, they can always replace the battery. So I tack it down, making sure everything's working all along the way, and then like a jumbled mess, just use a little more washi tape because it doesn't matter what it looks like back there. And mine always looks like a hot mess. But again, doesn't matter. No one's going to see that. All right. So check it out. Still works great. Now I can put my light switch there. Using a little bit of liquid glue, I can tack that down to the front now. I wanted to wait so that I knew exactly where my mechanism was going to be, and then I could attach the switch to the front. Your next step is to pull out some foam tape. I'm going to use a deep foam tape. This is 3 millimeters deep. If you don't have something that's that deep, just double up your foam tape. The reason you want to make sure it's good and thick is that you don't want that mechanism constantly being pushed. So this will give your mechanism on the back plenty of room to sit there. And this stuff by Heffy Doodle, and it's in the Pearblossom Press store, is perfect. All right, we're now ready to attach. So I'm going to peel off all that release paper. You can leave a little bit attached and pull out as you need, but don't be afraid to stick your head right over the top of that to make sure everything's lining up. Once it's down, you're good to go. Check your mechanism, make sure everything's still working, and it is. Ta-da! I love it so much. So there was that first one. Here is the second one I made. This one uses halo lights, which are just as easy. And you'll notice I have two little tabs, one for each of my cards, so that way I can stick it between the battery and the mechanism, and then it doesn't light up all the time, but check it out. I'm so in love with these easy lights. If you know me at all, you've seen me make a ton of them. Again, hop down to my description box down below, click on my blog, and then you can hop along and see all the wonderful creations that everybody made. Be sure to comment along the way. There are 2 prizes available. All right, if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I will see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.